because I just see, I just see things coming way in advance, sometimes a whole year in advance. Yeah, man. And I have been telling you guys about it. Remember how many times I call this thing a Ponzi scheme? It is getting clearer as the day goes by. Yeah, man. The ad uncle they put out said they're scrapping all the bids they get from from all over the world. They said they must scrap all them bids. They're putting in a different swing to this project now.
12 hours 22, you were listening to the Christmas Day edition of the Glenall Show. Tell it as it is. We will return with the continuation of that episode right after your news at noon.
This is the news on top of the hour.
Live from our studio in Georgetown.
Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 FM.
Good day, I'm Kevin Smith. Welcome to your main newscast for Wednesday, December 29th, 2021. These are the top stories we're tracking in today's newscast. Ali defends rush to pass flood oil fund bill and ignores gaping loopholes for massive abuse and corruption. Engineer says $14 million to clear burned out section of school. New oil law is to legalize corrupt transactions. Glenall urges massive support at protest today. Anag says government marginalizing citizens and putting money in party hacks' pockets. And get the full details of these stories and much more after the break.
Nothing in life is free, but the MyDigiCell app is. You don't need to be on a data plan to use the app. You can conveniently chat with Ruby or an agent for help. Check your account balance, activate a Prime bundle, or gift it to a friend. Send credit. Check the Georgetown and Burpee's bridge schedules. Activate a roaming plan. Play Shake to Win for cool prizes. So don't worry about a data plan, buddy. Download the MyDigiCell app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store today. Digicel, better together.
And now for the news in detail. Despite numerous criticisms in the past 2 weeks that he is rushing legislation which the citizenry hardly had time to scrutinize and which would ultimately pave the way for massive corruption, President Ali remains defiant, saying that the public has nothing to fear. Ali said the new law seeks to improve the governance structure of the oil money. He recalled that the existing law is severely deficient in this regard, as it reposes all the powers for determining the fiscally and economically sustainable amounts from the oil fund in the finance minister. Critics of the new bill have not insisted that the old one should remain the law of the land, but rather support broad consultation on any changes and for the canning of the amendments being proposed, as they give Ali and the Natural Resources Minister enormous powers to appoint persons to various committees. Kaieteur News publisher and advocate for a better oil deal for Guyana, Glenn Lal, is convinced that the government's rush to pass the new National Resource Bill has nothing to do with the well-being of the country or its citizens, but has everything to do with legalizing their corrupt transactions. A protest is slated to take place at 10 a.m. today and is currently ongoing at the Arthur Chong Conference Center at Liliandale. Lal is urging all Guyanese to join the calls to safeguard the NRF. He said, and I quote, "Even if you're not able to come down to the conference center, come out of your homes and call your neighbors to discuss what this means for Guyana." Under the proposed bill, the PPPC administration would be able to not only access the funds, but do so without any supervision, since the government has proposed to remove the 22-member oversight committee and replace it with a board handpicked by the president. And now let's tell you, a new and united Guyana, or ANUG, has knocked the PPPC government for breaking down the guardrails of good governance to marginalize citizens and put money in the pockets of party hacks and friends. In a wide-ranging statement that touches on the governance of the country, the party also signaled its opposition to the new Natural Resources Bill, which is to be debated in Parliament today, saying it will set the stage for ramped-up spending spree and corruption. ANUG is one of the many small parties that sprung to life in the run-up to last year's general elections and had given the PPPC critical support in the aftermath of the elections impasse. Listing the transgressions of the government, ANUG said it first used its majority in Parliament to authorize an increase in amount of money it may borrow. The party said this expenditure could only have been funded by increased borrowing, and it is likely that borrowing was done against the collateral of the Petroleum Fund. And moving on, the Ministry of Education is moving ahead with the demolishing of the North Ramveld Secondary School. On June 19 this year, the entire upper flat of the school was demolished by a fire. The section that was destroyed included the classrooms that were designated for use by students who were about to write their CSEC examinations. According to the ministry's engineer estimate, to demolish the section of the school would cost some $14.9 million. During the opening of tenders at NPTAB yesterday, 6 companies bid for the contract. And moving on. If you scream, you would be murdered on the spot were the words of a cutlass-wielding bandit who robbed a law student from School of the Nations during the wee hours on Tuesday. Anastasia Tristan Henry, an 18-year-old student who resides at Monrepo on the east coast of Demerara, said that on Boxing Day night, her sister, her boyfriend, along with Henry were returning home at 2 hours when they parked the car outside of her residence. As she was about to open the door, 2 men dressed in dark-colored clothing rode up to them on bicycles, armed with cutlasses. One of the bandits attacked her sister and boyfriend, and the other bandit attacked her. Henry noted that she remained quiet and told the bandit he can have her jewelry and leave her. She related that the bandit had desperately wanted to kidnap her. Get the full details in today's Kaieteur News. 12 hours 9, you're listening to Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. This is your news at noon. We will return after the break.
This is GHK Lal inviting you to join me weekdays from Monday to Friday on the National Outlook for commentary on a range of issues. Immediately after the 12 noon and 7 p.m. newscasts on Kaieteur Radio at 99.1 FM and 99.5 FM. Looking forward to you sharing in the conversation.
Welcome back. Let us continue with the news. A deputy speaker of the National Assembly and leader of the Liberty and Justice Party, Lennox Schumann, is of the view that all Guyanese must be consulted on how the revenue garnered from oil and gas production should be spent. In an invited comment on Tuesday, Schumann said that not only must Guyanese be consulted, but the proposed legislation should also be withdrawn due to its flaws. He explained that the Natural Resources Fund bill tabled in Parliament on December 16th and will be debated today was meant to catch the nation off guard. He also raised concerns with the power of the President to appoint the Board of Directors, which will replace the 22-member Oversight Committee established by the former government to manage the oil fund. Meanwhile, the APNU-AFC submitted yesterday to the Clerk of the National Assembly, Mr. Sherlock Isaacs, several amendments it believes should be made to the Local Content Bill 2021. The opposition said it believes several clauses, if left unchecked, could result in opportunities for rampant corrupt practices. In today's Kaieteur News, a chart is available that contains their proposed amendments to the existing legislation and an explanatory note justifying this. And now let's tell you, former Finance Minister Winston Jordan was on Tuesday placed on $3 million bail for allegedly selling a state wharf below its market value. Jordan, in the company of a battery of lawyers, including leader of the opposition Joseph Harmon, appeared in the Georgetown Magistrates Court before Chief Magistrate Ann McLennan. Jordan was slapped with a misconduct in public office charge, which alleges that while being and performing duties of the Minister of Finance and being the concerned Minister for NISL, a company owned by the government of Guyana, between January 26th, that should be between February 26, 2020 and July 31st, 2020, at Main Street, Georgetown, he willfully misconducted himself. Get the full details in today's Kaieteur News. As government draws nearer to accessing the finances in the Natural Resources Fund, the revenues garnered from oil and gas production, economist Raymond Gaskin has warned that the finances must not be misused to fund projects such as the much-touted Gas-to-Shore project and the Amila Falls hydropower initiative. Gaskin said that the government is planning to create a system where the politicians will make the decisions on how to spend the oil money. He was referring to the recent announcement by the incumbent administration that the 22-member oversight committee for the fund would be replaced with a board of directors appointed by the president. And to wrap things up today, let's tell you that the Ministry of Health yesterday recorded 32 new COVID-19 infections, taking the total number of confirmed cases to 39,151. According to the ministry's latest COVID-19 dashboard, 7 patients are admitted into the COVID-19 ICU, 31 persons are in institutional isolation, 598 in home isolation, and 3 in institutional quarantine. Additionally, a total of 37,465 persons have since recovered, while a total of 1,050 persons have since died from the virus. The time has now moved on to 12 hours 14. Before we wrap things up for your news at noon, let us give you a quick rundown of today's headlines. Ali defends rush to pass flawed oil fund bill and ignores gaping loopholes for massive abuse and corruption. New oil law is to legalize corrupt transactions. Glenn Lal urges massive support at protest today. ANAG says government marginalizing citizens and putting money in party hacks' pockets. $14 million to clear burnt out section of school, according to an engineer. And bandit tells law student during robbery, you will be murdered on the spot. And Schumann opposes new oil fund law. And with that, we've come to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's Newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 22